Assalamu alaikum students. In the last lecture, we were studying about the network layer, and we have studied the basic principles behind the network layer services. Okay, we discussed about the forwarding and routing, and we also discussed about the virtual circuit and the datagram networks. Today, we will continue with the network layer, and we will discuss little bit more about the internetworking, and we will see what is the format of IP datagram. Okay, we will also discuss about the IP addressing, and we will see what is a network address translation. So let's start. Okay, as we have discussed in the last lecture, that network layer is basically the third layer, which is between the transport layer and the link layer. Okay, so basic functionality, or we can hear the basic services which are provided by the network layer are that first of all, it provides the host-to-host communication, which uses the IP protocol. Okay, so in this layer, we will discuss about the addressing conventions, and we will discuss about the IP protocol and the basic IP datagram format. Okay, and the network layer also provides the a path selection and using the routing protocols. So we will discuss the routing protocol as well, and there's a protocol ICMP which provides the error reporting. Okay, so we will discuss about the ICMP protocol as well. Okay, so first of all, let's start. Okay, as we know that it provides a host-to-host communication, this means when the network layer provides the services, it is actually between the networks. Okay, so if this is an internetwork, this means these routers are actually connecting the different networks which are connected to the different interfaces of these routers. This means all these routers are basically connecting the different networks. So internetwork is basically a collection of network that are interconnected to provide some sort of host-to-host packet delivery services. Okay, so as we are discussing about the IP services, so we will discuss about the basic format of the IP datagram. Okay, the IP protocol, basically it has the two versions, IP version 4 and IP version 6. Here we are discussing about the IP version 4. Okay, so this is the IP datagram format of the IP version 4. So basically the IP version, we can see that this is, it has multiple rows, and the length of the each row is actually the 32 bits. Okay, which means the 4 bytes. Okay, so we can say, okay, we can divide from here that these are the 2 bytes and these are the 2 bytes. Okay, so the first row have the different fields, the second row have the different fields. Each field has its own purpose. Okay, so if we discuss about the first field, so in the first field, this is the version. So basically it includes the IP protocol version number, as we are using the IP protocol IP version 4. So in this field, basically which is actually a 4-bit field, it will add the version of the IP protocol. Okay, and the next field is header length, which is also the 4-bit. Header length actually tells about the length of the header of the IP datagram. We can see that this is the header, basic header of the IP datagram. This may also include into the header. That's why the header length is variable. Okay, so if we calculate it, this is a 4-byte of one row. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. This means that 20 bytes. Basically, normally the length of the IP header, IP datagram header is 20 bytes. But if we add the optional field, then it will become the 24 bytes. Okay. So this field actually is used to tell about what is the length of the IP header. Okay, IP datagram header. These are the types of services. This field actually tells about the types of the services. Type of the services mean what kind of data is in this IP datagram. In case sometimes some data is which has some data which requires the low delay, high throughput, or the reliability. This means this data is when this type of data, which is different from the normal data. So this field is basically used that type of data. Okay, so the type of services for the special kind of data. Okay, which is needed to be which need to be provide the services on the urgent basis. Okay, so the next field is the length. This length is actually tells about the total datagram length in bytes. Okay, so this means it will include the length of the total IP datagram, which includes the header as well as the payload. Okay, the next fields are, and there are three fields. First is the identifier, then the flags, and the fragment offset. Basically, as the IP protocol, it is used to connect, or it is used to communicate between the different types of network. So every network has its own standard. Okay, standard it also includes, this means that sometimes one network may have the different uh, it may allow the different length of the datagram. Okay, similarly the other network may allow the different length of the datagram. So basically when it is required to divide the datagram, or to uh, to fragment the basic the whole datagram, then these three fields are used. Okay, so we will discuss in the next we will discuss these fields as well. So first we will discuss about the time to live. Time to live is actually a kind of counter which is added in the IP datagram whenever it is sent to the into the network. Okay, so what it does, it basically um, whenever the packet is sent into the network, then when it is received by the receiver, it is basically deleted, or we can say it is removed from the network. In case there is a packet which is continuously looping into the network, so there should be some mechanism to delete or discard that network to avoid the unnecessary looping within a network. Okay, so whenever the packet is sent into the network, it add basically the in the header our field is added with the time to live. The time to live is actually a kind of counter. uh, this means if there's, for example, the counter is set to the 10 or 16, it will decrement at each router. Okay, for example, this packet is will move from the different routers. Okay, if its value is 10, it will decrement by at each router. For example, it's 10. When it will move to this router, it will become 9. Okay, when it will move to the next router, it will become 8. When this value of this counter or the time to live will become 0, then this packet will be discarded. So basically the time to live is used to avoid the unnecessary looping within a network. Okay, okay, the next field is upper layer. These upper layer protocols are actually which are added. This means that services this means that this IP will provide the service to these kinds of upper layers protocols, for example the transport layer and the application layer. So basically these are not normally used, but in case we want to use this field, that we want to tell the IP to provide the service to the upper layer protocol to deliver the payload to these protocols, then this field will be used. Okay, the header checksum is basically the checksum on the header of the IP datagram. Okay, as this IP datagram is basically uses the IP addresses, so we know that IP addresses are the basically 4 bytes addresses. So these 32 bits are used. Each row is used for the 32-bit source IP address, and the next field is for the 32-bit destination IP address. This is the optional field which is not normally used. Okay, so in case we recall that when we were discussing about the TCP or the transport layer, we have discussed that the transport layer or the TCP protocol basically adds the 20 bytes of header. And when it will move the data to the third layer, which is network layer, it will also add the 20 bytes of IP protocol. Okay, so this means at this layer, basically it has the 40 bytes of header. Okay, so 40 bytes of header and with the application layer overhead. Okay, So this means when this IP datagram will be forwarded to the next layer, it would definitely have the 40 bytes of headers. Okay. Okay, as we were discussing that basically the IP protocol, or we can say the network layer, basically provide the services to communicate between the host to host that of the different networks. As we have told that in the last, that these three fields are basically used for the fragmentation and reassembly. So why the IP fragmentation or reassembling is used? As in this picture, we can see that these routers are basically used to communicate between the different networks. For example, this is a different network. This is a network A, and this is a network B. These both networks are of different types. When the packet will move from one network to the other packet, it is possible that these links, they have the different they have the different MTU. MTU is basically the maximum transfer size. As the different networks have different standards, so they actually allow the different maximum transfer size. Okay, so it is possible that this network may have the MTU, which is it may allow the different or the bigger datagram size or the bigger maximum transfer size, but this network or this link cannot allow this size of the datagram. Okay, so this means that different link types have the different MTUs. When a large IP datagram is transferred, or when is transferred to the network, which actually allows the smaller or the smaller IP datagrams, then this large IP datagrams are basically divided or fragmented into the smaller datagrams. For example, we can see that here at this point, this larger IP datagram is divided into three smaller datagrams. Okay, and this is called the fragmentation. And when these smaller datagrams will be received at the destination, then they are reassembled. Okay, so the reassembling is basically done at the final destination. And IP header use some bits, or we can say some fields, to identify the order related to these fragments. Okay, so basically we can say that these three fields are basically used for this process of the fragmentation and reassembling. Okay. Okay, as the network is internetwork is a collection of different networks that are interconnected to provide some sort of host-to-host packet delivery services. So in this diagram, we can see that different routers. This is the router 1, router 2, router 3. These three routers are connecting different type of network. This network is the Ethernet, and these two routers are connected with the point to point. Okay, and this router and the router 3, they are connected, and they have the network between, which is actually the FTDI. And this network on the other side, or sorry, this router on the other side have the network Ethernet. Okay, basically the FTDI allows the maximum MTU size, which is equal to 4500 bytes. Okay, and the Ethernet allows only the 1500 bytes of MTU. Okay, so we will consider the example that, for example, we want to transfer the data from this network to the Ethernet. So this means if we have the packet which is around the 4000 or 4500, when it will be forwarded to this network, which is Ethernet, which allows only the MTU, the size of MTU, which is the size of the MTU which is allowed in the Ethernet is 1500. So basically, this packet will be divided into the smaller datagrams. So let's say, okay, we have considered the example, which is the 4000 bytes datagram. Okay, so we are transferring this data to the Ethernet, which allows the 1500 bytes of datagram. Okay. Okay, this is basically the part of the header of the IP datagram, which we have discussed in the previous slides. This is basically the ID or the identification field. It is actually a field which is used for the fragments of the same IP datagram. For example, there is an IP datagram which has the identification number equal to 700 or 7000. Okay, so all the fragments which are the part of the same IP datagram, they will use the same identification number. Okay, and this flag is used to tell if this IP datagram is fragmented or not. And this offset field actually tells that what is the start byte of this IP or the smaller IP datagram or the fragmented IP datagram. Okay, so we are actually dividing the one large datagram into the several smaller datagrams. So as the Ethernet allows only the 1500 bytes, and we know that in 1500 bytes, basically the 20 bytes are for the header. Each datagram actually uses the header. Okay, so this means that basically the data which will be added in the first fragment of the IP datagram will be equal to the 1480 bytes. Okay, so 20 bytes will be the header and the 1480 bytes will be the data, will be the data or the payload. Okay, so for example, here we are assuming that the identification number is X. We can use any number. Okay, and the fragmentation flag is on, or the value of the fragmentation flag is 1. This means these fragments are, and these IP datagrams are actually the fragments of the datagram. We can see in the upper, it was not fragmented, so that this flag was equal. The value of this flag was equal to 0. Now these are the fragments of the some IP datagram, so this field is basically equal to 1. So this is the first datagram or the fragmented datagram. So the offset is equal to 0. This means it will start with the 0 byte. Okay, this means that it is actually telling the initial or the first byte of the data which is added in this fragment. Okay, in the next byte, as we have know that that data which is added is equal to 1480. So in the next, when we will come to the next fragment of the same IP datagram, it will also use the same size of the data, because the total size was 4000. If you will divide into the 1500, the first 1480 were added in the first fragment, and the next 1480 will be added in the next fragment. Okay, so if we divide, the offset is basically tells about the first byte of this datagram. So basically we will see how many bytes were added in the list in the last fragment. So these were 1480. So we will divide by 8 because we want to convert that into the bytes. So it will give that it will give the answer, and now we know that the next byte or the first byte which will be added in the next fragment or the second segment of this IP datagram is equal to 185. Okay, so the length of the fragmented datagram is 1500, which includes the 1480 of data and 20 bytes for header. Identification number is same, fragmentation flag is equal to 1, and the offset number is 185. This is actually the first byte of this data. Okay, so in the next, we have only left with the 1040 bytes because we have used the 1480 and 1480. So the left data is actually only the 1040 bytes. So this means we will add the 14, the rest of the data, and we'll use the same identification number. Fragmentation flag is 0. This means the next fragment is, there's no more fragment for this IP datagram, so it is equal to the 0, and the offset number is, again, because the total data add is 148 1480 plus 1480 by 8, so it will give the number 370. This means the first byte of this fragmented IP datagram is 370. Okay, okay, now we will discuss about the IP addressing. Okay, now we know about the basic format of the IP datagram, and we know that IP datagram basically uses the IP addresses, which are actually the 32-bit identifier for the host or router interfaces. Okay, so what is we will see how these IP addresses are assigned to the different interfaces of the routers or the host. Okay, so as we know that basically the internet network is basically the collection of the different networks. So this means if this is a router which is actually connecting or interconnecting the different networks to each other, so this means each interface will have the different IP address with a different network address. Okay, so this means each interface of the router should have assigned some IP address. Okay, and these are the different networks which and this router is basically interconnecting these different networks to each other. Okay, for example, here we can say that this is a different type of network which is actually connected to all the hosts through a Wi-Fi, or this is a network which is we can say that this is a network which is connected with all the hosts through the wide Ethernet interfaces. Okay, and this is the network which is a different network from this network, and this network is basically connecting all the hosts of this sub network with the Wi-Fi interface. Okay, so um, So if we talk about these hosts, they are connected to each other, but these are the part of the same network. So these hosts, or we can say that these hosts, they actually don't need any intervening router because they are the part of the same network. Okay, so the router is actually needed when any host or a machine is wants to, or you can say any machine, it wants to communicate with the other machine which is actually the part of the different network. Okay, okay, as we know that IP address is basically a 32-bit long number with the 4 octets. This means each octet is basically the 8-bit number. So basically the IP address is 32-bit long number. So and each number, each IP address is basically consist of two we can say it basically consists of network part and the host part. Okay, and the IP addresses are basically of 3 classes. For example, the class A, which are usable classes, class B, and class C. The other 2 classes, class D and E, are used basically for multicasting or for the research purposes. The class A, B, and C are basically used for the for IP addresses. Okay, so if we see what is the difference between class A, B, and class C, actually the class A has, as we know that IP address has the 2 parts, that is the network part and the host part. So class A has the 4 octets, like the IP address is 4 octets. The first octet, in case we say okay, the first octet is the network part and the rest of the 3 octets are basically the host part. Okay, so this is the class C addresses, and we can identify by the number of the IP address. It is the class C address. If the first bit, as we know that, for example, this is a decimal number. This is some class A address. Okay, so if we convert this decimal number into the binary, when in the binary, in the first octet of any IP address, the first octet, the first bit is 0. This means this is the basically the class A address. Okay, and similarly, if the first 2 parts are network part and the other 2 parts are basically the host part, so this is the class B address, and we can identify the class B address by looking at the first 2 bits. If the first 2 bits are 1 and 0, this means this is the class B address. Any number which is any binary number which has the first two bits equal to 1 and 0. It is basically from the class B address. In the class C address, the first three octets are basically the network part, and the last octet is basically the host part. Okay. So how can we identify the class C addresses? If we look at the IP address of any, if we look at the IP of any IP address, if we convert that into the binary, if the first three numbers are 1, 1 and 0, this means this is basically the class C address. As we can see, if we convert the 192 into the binary number, definitely the first three bits will be equal to 1, 1 and 0. Okay, so it is basically the class 3 address. As this is a 32-bit number, this means the total numbers or the total IP addresses available are equal to 2 raised to power 32, which are a very big number. So this means around 4 billion IP addresses are available for the different machines on the internet. Okay. Okay, now it's clear that basically the higher order bits are shows the subnet part, and the lower order bits basically show the host part. We can see in this example that this router is basically connecting the three different subnets. Okay, so what is a subnet? Basically the host which has the same subnet part of the IP address. This means they can communicate with each other without any intervening router. So this means basically they are the part of the same subnet. As we can see in the addresses, as these three interfaces, that is the interface of this router and these hosts, they have the IP addresses which have the same subnet part, that is 223.1.3, 223.1.3, 223.1.3, and similarly these hosts, they have the same subnet part 223.1.2, 223.1.2, 223.1.2. Okay, so this means the devices interfaces with the same subnet part of the IP address, they are basically belong to the same subnet. Okay. The subnet part is basically identified by using the subnet mask, but now usually the classless interdomain routing is used, that is the CIDR IP address is used, in which has the format like this. This has the address format that a.b.c.d/x. So where x is the number of bits which is the subnet portion of the address. For example, this is the address, and the address is 200.23.16. Okay, and /23 is basically the x, which shows that it is the number of bits which are showing the subnet portion of the address. So in this address, it is 200.23.16.0/0/23. This means that 23 bits of this IP address is basically the subnet portion of the address. Okay. So if there will be the multiple devices which are actually the part, which will be the part of the same organization, they will share the same common prefix, that is the /23. Okay, we will discuss in detail about the IP addressing and the subnetting in the next lecture. So right now we will move to the next topic. Okay, whenever any organization that requires the IP addresses, it actually, there's a global authority that has the ultimate responsibility for managing the IP addresses space and allocating the addresses to the different ISPs or the different organizations. Okay, so whenever the IP is actually get from this organization that is called the ICANN, that is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Okay, so after getting the IP address, basically we can use that IP address on that subnet or for our network. Okay, so usually whenever an organization has obtained any address, it can assign the individual IP addresses to the host or the router interfaces in its organization. Okay, but usually it is a very lengthy process. A system administrator can manually configure the IP addresses into the routers. Okay, but usually for this purpose we use the dynamic host configuration protocol. DHCP server is basically responsible for providing the configuration information to the different hosts. So in every organization or every local LAN, there is a you can say in a network, there is at least one DHCP server for the administrative domain. Okay, So DHCP server maintains a pool of the available addresses. So we can say by using the DHCP, any host which is the part of the network can obtain an IP address automatically. Okay. Okay, as we have discussed in the start of our lecture that the Internet Control Message Protocol or ICMP is used at the third layer as well, which is actually used for the error reporting. It basically sends the error messages to the source host in cases there's some error or there's a problem in the sending of the IP datagram. For example, the destination host is unreachable due to the link or node failure, or in case the node is fragmented, or sorry, the IP datagram is fragmented and the reassembling process is failed, or the TTL has reached to 0. Okay, so it has some the IP address checksum failed. Okay, so in this cases the error reporting is done by the ICMP. Okay. Okay, now we will discuss about the network address translation. As we have discussed that basically the every network or the interface of every router, it has the one IP address. But locally, all the machines or the nodes, they don't use this IP address. All the nodes within a network, they can use some different or the local address. Okay, so this means any network which is actually the local, any host which is actually the part of the local network or the home network, it basically uses the single IP address for communicating the rest of the internet. Okay, so for this purpose the network address translation is used. So the local network uses just one IP address as far as the outside world is concerned. Okay, so this means every host within our local network is using the same IP address to communicate with the outside the world. So the range of addresses are not needed from the IP address. As we are discussing that whenever any node want to communicate to the internet, it needs some IP address. Okay, so if there are multiple nodes within a local network, so in this case, if we use the network address translation, we don't need the range of addresses from the ISP. Okay, so just one IP address is enough for all the devices. It can change the addresses of the devices in the local network without notifying the outside world. And similarly, it can change the ISP without changing the addresses of the devices in the local network. Okay, so devices inside the local network, not explicitly addressable, visible by the outside world. From the security point of view, it is also a plus. Okay, so network address translation, basically how it is implemented. It is implemented on the router. For example, there's a NAT router. So how this process or mechanism will work actually the NAT router maintains a NAT translation table. Okay, so what information is added in the NAT translation table? Whenever the packet is actually moving out of the local network, so basically it has some IP address, source IP address, and some port number. So whenever this packet is basically moved to the outside, or it is used for outgoing datagram, it is actually an outgoing datagram. So what the NAT router will do, it will actually assign the NAT IP address and a new port number. Okay, which will now become the source IP address or the port number of that datagram. So whenever the remote clients or servers will respond to that datagram, they will use this new NAT IP address and the new port number as a destination address. Why? Because this datagram is moved out of this local network with this NAT IP address and the new port number. But the actual IP address was source IP address and this port number, which is replaced by the NAT IP address and the new port number. And this information is actually added in the NAT translation table for every source. Okay, so this we can say that this pair is added in the NAT translation table, that is the source IP address and port number against the NAT IP address and the new port number. Okay, so whenever there's a incoming datagram, they will again replace that NAT IP address and the new port number in the database of every incoming datagram with the corresponding source IP address and the port number, which is actually stored in the NAT table, or we can say NAT translation table. Okay, we can see this is the NAT translation table. For example, this is a host and it is sending some packet to the outside of the local LAN. So it will send a datagram to 128.199.40.1.186 with the port number 80. Okay. So it has the source IP address, which is equal to 10.0.0.1, and it has the port number 3345, and this is the destination address and the port number. When this packet will move to the NAT router, it will replace the addresses. It will add the IP address, source IP address as 138.76.29.7, and the port number is 501. But the actual source address was 10.0.0.1 and the port number was 3345. So this is the LAN side pair and this is the WAN side pair. This means when this packet or datagram will move with this IP address, which is basically the IP address of this interface of the NAT router. Okay, so this packet will move with this information and the destination is same. Okay, so when this packet will come back and it has the NAT translation table has this information. When this reply will arrive with the destination address that is 138.76.29.7 with the port number 501, which was actually assigned while moving out of the local LAN. Okay, so it will again replace that number with the actual number that is 10.0.0.1 with the same port number 3345. Okay, so this means the source address was changed by this number and the reply was sent to the same number as the destination address. When this destination address is received at this router, it will again change the address by the initial or the actual IP address and the port number. Okay, so this is how the NAT translation table is maintained at a NAT router. Okay, so this means all the nodes within a local network, they uses the single IP address of this interface of the NAT router to communicate with the nodes or the outside internet, okay, or the internet outside of this local LAN. Okay, okay, in the next lecture we will discuss in detail about the IP addressing and we will see what is the subnetting. Today we discuss briefly about the IP addressing, and in the next lecture we will discuss in detail about the IP addressing and we will see what is subnetting and how we can create the subnets within our networks. Okay, so this is the end of our lecture. Allah